Yeah, so the Lord gonna use the Chinese to shoot nuclear missiles upon America, and it ain't gonna be nothing America can do about it. Uh, oh, good. Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. Right, man. So any day now, this place can just go up in flames. Money system can collapse, riots start, and eventually be delivered, man. So you got to keep up with the prophecies. You gotta wait. Look, let me read it again. Romans 13:11, and that knowing the time, we know the time. We're at the end of Esau's kingdom, the end of the heathen nations' rulerships, and the ushering into the kingdom of heaven. That now it's high time to wake out of sleep. So you niggas that ain't woke, y'all better wake up before it's too late. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Right. So these guys are moving strategically, and they ultimately on the Lord's clock, but we don't get all the information. We don't get. Yeah, basically we don't get all the information, but we close in what we believe. Hold on. Hold on. Bear with me. Uh, all right. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 16. It says, and the number of the army of the horsemen. Well, I can start at 15. Verse 15. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men, which is over here in America. Uh, um, the Edomites over here in America. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200 million nuclear missiles. And I heard the number of them. It says, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. That's the missiles. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lion, representing fierceness. And out of their mouth issued fire. And when them elements, uh, 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 um, how does the process go? I think when the elements collide, they explode, and you get that nuclear explosion. Issue fire and smoke and brimstone, just like Sodom and Gomorrah, because America is the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, and Sodom and Gomorrah was an example of what not to do. So the same thing that happened to them is going to happen to America. By these three was the third part of men killed by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. For the power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents. That's that cloud that trails the missile, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. The second Ezra chapter 13. I can start verse 1. It says, "And it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven." This is Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. "And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him." Right? Everybody gonna see Yahweh Shai. And whensoever the voice, this is over there during the battle of Armageddon, Salakia. "And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth felleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea." The nations are eventually going to come together to try to fight the Lord. It ain't no coincidence they training together and things like that. They not only preparing to go to war with each other, the elites and those that are up there, like the presidents, they know that the Lord's return is coming. And that's why they got space weaponry. Russia just got some new advancement in their space weaponry. Um, it's the video on that. I'll be able to put it up. It says, "But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew upon it, flew up upon it. That mountain was the chariot. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet durst fight." People gonna be scared to fight the Lord when he returns. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Right, and that's from the nuclear missiles and the laser beams the Lord gonna shoot on Esau's army. But as well as take them and have them shot over here to America and various places around the world. Second Peter chapter 3 verse 10. Second Peter chapter 3 verse 10. "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise." America is a heaven. America is as known as a woman as well. The harlot that sit upon the beast, or is it the dragon? Um, Second Peter chapter 3 verse 10. "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat." Right. That noise is from the nuclear missiles hitting this place. "The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Right. Everything over here in America is going to be burned up. The people and everything, the trees, the buildings, etc. "Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness?" Right. So people supposed to be in holy conversation and godliness. Not that rap shit, gotta go. That church shit, gotta go. Nicki Minaj and that dumbass conversation that she just had about them demonic voodoo worshiping ass Christians and shit, gotta go. All them conversations have to cease, and they need to be talking about righteousness. This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 1. It says, "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore." America is known as the great whore. She is filled up with many philosophies that are contrary to the gospel. And she pushed those philosophies out upon the world, the democracy, which includes LGBT, witchcraft, etc., that sit upon many waters. That with many waters mean many nations. Represents the people with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. They have taken of her philosophies, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine for fornication. That wine represents her philosophies. Everybody has a republic. Everybody is dressed in America's attire as far as the business suits and things of that nature. You got some Arab nations that don't really wear it, but the predominant of the world, they wear it. And then them other nations, heathen nations that's got kings and stuff like Saudi Arabia, they probably do wear that shit. They just probably just don't put it on TV unless I missed it, but it don't matter. It says, so he carried me. I mean, it does matter, but that's something I had to look up later on. It says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw the woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having the 7 heads and 10 horns. Right, so I'm not going to go into that, but America, as you can see, is known as the woman, and she's sitting upon the beast, which represents 7 heads and 10 horns, and that goes into the 7 kingdoms of Esau, and as far as the 7 heads, and the 10 horns go into the NATO and the EU nations. It's 32, about 32 now. All you gotta do is look up NATO. It's just EU nations are a part of NATO. The US is a part of NATO. Canada is a part of NATO. So this is Revelation chapter 18, verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, which represents America, the great is fallen. America is eventually going to be destroyed. It's fallen and has become the habitation of devils. Right? Devils basically is going to be specific creatures, owls, as well as other creatures that's going to inhabit this place. That's Isaiah 34 and 16, if I'm not mistaken, around that area. And the hold of every foul spirit and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Isaiah chapter 34, it's verse 11. Nope. Isaiah chapter 34, verse 6. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, represents America, and upon the people of my curse, Esau, to judgment. Nuclear missile. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord Yahweh hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. America is Idumea, and America is Basra. These are lands that the Edomites owned in ancient times. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Right, everything that the heathen nations have done unto us. Well, let's stick with America. Salakia. Everything that happened unto us over here in America, the slavery, systematic racism, the poisonous pain, air, food, etc., our wives being whores, the men being faggots, the witchcraft. Esau gonna have to pay for that by way of his land, and his people that's over here gonna be destroyed. Salakia. Right. And those whom are left, when the dust clears, because there's going to be multiple places that's going to get hit by nuclear missiles, but this precept is referring to America. But those who left are going into captivity. It says, and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. It shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. The smoke eventually going to go out from the burning, from this place being on fire. It's eventually going to go out. From generation to generation it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. But there's no one that's going to be able to inhabit this place forever. It says, but the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. The owl and the raven shall dwell in it. These are the creatures that's going to dwell here in America. And he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. Right, all that. This is Mexico's border, Wisconsin, Chicago, etc. All that's going to be done away with, man. You know what? And with that being said, let me see if I have another precept. Now, with that being said, call law Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, by Shema Kakadash, double honors to the elders and the apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.